Hey, good morning, beautiful people. Happy Baby Friday. I wanted to start your morning off with a little bit of news, but before I get into the news, I wanted to say thank you guys so much for your birthday wishes, for your gifts and your donations. Y'all really showed out, showed me some love, and I thank you guys so very much for that. I had a really, really nice day, okay? Everything I share is for educational and phrase purposes, and I'm going to get into the video and we'll talk about it later, okay, you guys? Let's get into it. It's pretty self-explanatory a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about Melissa. Good morning, girl. Good morning. We're about to get into some news this morning. I hope you're doing okay, love. This video is pretty self-explanatory. We're going to talk a little bit about Donald Trump, Karoline Leavitt speaks, and a little bit about what's happening in Iran. Let's go. Hi, Underboss 25. Good morning. Where are you watching me from, Underboss? My video. Thank you, Lion of God. Thank you so much, you guys. I love you guys. You guys are my new day ones. I'll talk about it later. What's funny as of earlier this week is, Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome. Welcome, Melissa. Okay, let me get to this video because it's kind of long. Melissa's wild. Okay. Oh, no, that's not it. There you go.
The president is going to address us now, but I did want to give you one more surprise, one more record broken. We were just talking about it a moment ago, and he said, go ahead and tell the people. Last year at this event, we broke the all-time record for the spring dinner at $35 million. And tonight, because of your generosity and because you're a part of this team, we raised $37 million. New record. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that's a lot of money. Congratulations. Well, we have a hot party. We have a very hot party, and we have a group that likes to see our country in trouble, and we're going to do something about it. But I want to thank you for that warm welcome, Mike. You guys are great. Richard and Mike work so hard. And thank you to all the friends and supporters and true American patriots here tonight. You know, Richard just told me backstage that we have more donors here tonight in terms of not only the dollars, but in terms of the individual people. We want to thank you. It's a record. And it's a nice place, by the way. It looks nice. Very nice. They don't build too many of them like this anymore. But with your help this November, we'll defeat the radical left Democrats and we'll win a midterm victory like our country has never seen for whatever reason. I don't know what it is, but a president who wins, Republican or Democrat, almost always does poorly in the midterms. Nobody knows why, even if it's a successful presidency. And there are those that say this has been the first, I mean, really the best first year ever for a president. And I agree with them. I must argue. I agree with them 100%. But I do. We did a lot. We settled 8 wars. People sort of forget. And we're winning another one. I tell you, we're winning so big. Nobody's ever seen anything like we're doing in the Middle East with Iran. And they are negotiating, by the way, and they want to make a deal so badly, but they're afraid to say it because they figure they'll be killed by their own people. They're also afraid they'll be killed by us. There's never been a head of a country that wanted that job less than being the head of Iran. I don't want it. We listen to some of the things they say. We hear them very clearly. They say, I don't want it. We'd like to make you the next supreme leader. No, thank you. I don't want it. But I want to express my gratitude to the tremendous leader in this effort. And really, he's just an incredible speaker. He's going to go down as one of the great ever. Mike Johnson. and the boss and his family, by the way, Kelly. And because of the fact that these lights are so bright, I can't see a thing in the audience, but what the hell, I know you're all friends. Otherwise, I'd get out of here very quickly. But what a job he's done. You know, think of it. When we have a majority of 3, we feel so thrilled. Then it goes down sometimes to 2. Then it goes down to 1. And then it goes back up to 2 or 3, and we feel rich again. It's crazy, and we're getting all of this fast. Think about the great big beautiful bill. Think of that. The great big beautiful bill, we got it done. And remember, that was a 4-year deal. That was 4 years. I said at the time, and Mike agreed, and John Thune agreed. We agreed, let's get everything done. Let's put it in one. And everybody said we were crazy, would never get it passed. And that was 4 years worth of goodies. But now that we have that, we're going back for more. We're going back for more pretty quickly. I think you're going to see some pretty good things, which we should win. But of course, the thing that we should win, and who would believe that you can't get voter ID because all of the Democrats, every single one of them, they stick together. They have lousy policy. They're not good people, but they stick together. They have horrible policy for this country, but they're like glue the way they stick together, and you have to respect that. We have some very interesting things in store, and I think we're going to have a great election, despite the fact that if you look historically, for whatever reason, you win the presidency, Republican, Democrat. So in 50 years, it's 2. Think of that. In 100 years, it's 4. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Nobody's done more than we have in this last short period of time. Nobody. It doesn't make sense. I've gone to people, I've asked the greatest political leaders in the country, why is it that whoever wins the presidency, not Republican, not Democrat, whoever wins the presidency doesn't do well in the midterms? And most people can't explain it. The professionals try and give you an answer. The Democrats would say, if you ask them that question, it's racism. But it pertains to you too. Oh, well, in that case, it's not racism. They always use racism. Whenever they ask a question, like voter ID, why don't you want, it's racist. Do they ever have another answer other than racism? And no, it's unbelievable. It's not racism. It's voter ID. It's important for our country. And proof of citizenship is important for our country, very. And men playing in women's sports should not be allowed. That's very important. And transgender for everybody, the mutilation of our children should not be allowed. And open borders should not be allowed. Open borders where the world is allowed to pour into our country.
Jerome, thank you so much, friend. Jerome, I see you. Thank you.
And because of the rules, it's really, in all fairness, you've been doing great, but because of the rules of the Senate, it's very hard for them to get the number. And again, you have those Democrats, they stick together. Think of it, they vote against voter ID. They vote against proof of citizenship. They vote against it. Now, I happen to be a fan of no mail-in ballots, even though I won Florida, which is mail-in ballots by a massive number, the highest number in history. And I won other places, but in California and other states, they cheat so badly with that. They send 38 million ballots out, and of the 38 million, they go to Democrats a hell of a lot. Democrats get sometimes 6 or 7 ballots in one household, and Republicans are calling for their ballot. They're saying, please send me my ballot. Very unfair, but I hate that. I hate mail-in ballots. I've won with mail-in ballots, but I hate mail-in ballots because basically it's a way of cheating. Jimmy Carter, the single best thing he did, including his presidency, no, it wasn't giving away the Panama Canal for $1. That was not the best. But he did that. He did a lot of other things, but he did do one thing. He had a commission with Scoop Jackson and some other very respected people. And the conclusion was never allow mail-in ballots, because if you do, there'll be massive cheating. And that's what happens. We can't do it. So we have to do something about that. But that poll's not at 99%. That poll's at about 75%, 80%. But voter ID polls at 96%, 97, 98% with Republicans. 86% just came out with both Republicans and Democrats. The only one that fight it are the Democrat leaders, because they want to cheat. The only reason you say, and it's the only reason, I don't want voter identification with a picture. I always add with a picture. It's true. And the only reason you don't want that is because you want to cheat, and they do cheat, and we can't let them get away with it. So we have to keep that fight going. We have to get voter ID, and we have to get proof of citizenship. It's so important. One of the most important things we can do. So I want to thank House Majority Leader, a brave guy. Oh, boy, I was with him that night where he wasn't supposed to make it, Steve Scalise. He's great. What a strong guy. Where are you, Steve? We love Steve. Oh, there he is. We love Steve. What a thing he went through. And then he went through another battle, too, and he's a tough cookie. He outlasted it all. I was with his wife, his family that night, that horrible night. And the doctor told me, very, very small chance. And here he is. I actually think he's a better looking man now than he was a few years ago. I actually think he's better looking. I don't know what the hell he did. I think he had the greatest doctors in history. He's a better looking man now. Also, another great looking guy. He was born good looking, and he's got an even better looking wife. His wife is a winner. House Majority Whip Tom Emmer. Where's Tom? Where's Tom? Hello, Tom. He's great. Great guy. Conference Chair, Lisa McLean. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Don. NRCC Chairman Richard Hudson, who does such a good job all the time. All the time. Deputy Chairman of the NRCC, a guy who worked for me for 6 years. And when they said, we want to take him, could we share him? Then I knew he was good. And then his congressional seat came up in Georgia where he lived. And he said, sir, my dream is to be a congressman. Would it be okay if I ran? I said, no, I don't want you to run. I want you to stay with me. Please stay with me. He said, please. I said, all right, I'll let you run. Brian Jack, he's done so great. Brian Jack. It's always a tough name to have somebody. You ever have the names Brian Jack? You know, these, I call them the two first names. You have two first names? People would say, you know, that guy Jack Bryan is fantastic. I said, who the hell is Jack Bryan? I had that the other day. He was telling me what a great guy Jack Bryan is. I say, who is he? He's a congressman. I said, listen, I know the congressman. There's nobody named Jack Bryan. But he was talking about Brian Jack. Brian, you're a tremendous guy. Really understands, loves politics, loves being a congressman. And dozens of Republican warriors in the House. You're incredible people, and you are warriors. And you have to take a lot of fake news like I do. We take so much fake news. You know, if you listen to the news, you think we're losing a war in Iran where we're decimating the other side. I mean, the better ones have us doing okay. We are decimating. They've got no Navy. They've got no anything. The whole thing is, and then you watch the news. I said, oh, I thought we were doing better than that. The fake news really has to change because people, you know, when you can win an election with 94% negative stories and you win it in a landslide, there's something wrong with the news because it shouldn't be happening. And, you know, they used to have 96% approval rating. They just edged out at 14. I'm extremely proud of that, actually. I've exposed them for being fake news. And we are going to hopefully change that because I think you really need great news to be great, and they are not great, and they're not leading us to greatness, but we are going to lead us to greatness. We're also joined tonight by many of our terrific MAGA majority candidates, a group of new candidates from across the country. will help grow our margin in the House, including Jay Feely, great football player, Kevin Lincoln, Joe Mitchell, Lori Buckhout. Hi, Lori. Mike LaPetri, Tano Tijerina, and Eric Flores, all new and all leading and all going to win big. Thank you very much. Welcome to a group of outstanding people. And let's get them all. You know what? We have to get them across the finish line. We've raised more money than we ever have, and we're raising a lot more. You know, I did something I haven't done this as a candidate. I saw the great job that Mike had done, and they had raised a lot of money for the evening. And the greatest thing about being president is you don't have to make contributions, you know? Nobody ever asks you for money. They want your endorsement, but nobody ever asks for money. It's great. I said, it's the only thing where I save money in this business. Nobody ever asked, but I saw Mike the other night. I did something that I never do. And I don't do this bragging. I do it because it's fun to talk about. He was close to raising $20 million. And I said, I'll give you $1 million so you hit your mark. I gave him $1 million. I never do that in politics. I never do it. But I do it for him. And we're going to do a lot more, by the way. I'm going to do a lot more. We've already raised a lot of money, but I'm doing a lot more because we got to win. Our country's at stake, really. Our country's at stake. These people are crazy that we're dealing with. The State of the Union speech. You don't mind if I go off this crazy teleprompter a little bit? You know, it's boring when you do the teleprompter thing. Well, it's very boring. But no, we had the State of the Union speech the other night. I announced all these heroes, and I announced women that have gone through tragedy, like the incredible woman who lost her daughter to a maniac when he slashed her from behind, right? And I say, please, please say hello. And she stands up devastated. And the Democrats are sitting like dead people, like dead. No movement, no heart, no anything. Then I announce a Congressional Medal of Honor being bestowed on the captain, a helicopter pilot who helped us win in Venezuela by landing a helicopter when his leg was practically shot off, with blood pouring down. You know, they land the big Chinooks, a lot of people, a lot of great soldiers in that helicopter. And he was shot from underneath with machine gun fire. Leg was practically chopped out. And if you know about helicopters, you land the helicopters with your legs. And he had legs that were not in good shape. And he landed it. He was high up, and he was able to land it exactly where it was supposed to land. Without that, the mission would have been a failure, probably. Had to land exactly in that spot, exactly on time. And he got it, and then he said, okay, I'm going to pass out now. Take over. Can you imagine that? And we gave him the Congressional Medal of Honor, and the Democrats sat there without movement. And then we gave another Congressional Medal of Honor to a 100-year-old hero, 100 years, who was a legend in the military for what he had done. We gave him the Congressional Medal of Honor, 100 years old, and the Democrats sat there emotionless, no clapping, nobody standing. Republicans, you did very well. You were going wild for all of them. Now, at the end of the evening, they were clapping on everything I said because they were called in by people watching on television. Did you see they were passing around notes? And they were saying, you guys are being killed tonight. Start clapping. And they were clapping for everything. Everything I said, even good Republican things, they were clapping wildly. But it was too late. They have no heart. And now you see what they're doing. They're just creating chaos. They want to create chaos. It's all they're good at, creating chaos. They can't do policy, no good. But they're doing it for two reasons. Number one is they want to deflect from all of the tremendous success that we're having in this military operation. I won't use the word war because they say if you use the word war, that's maybe not a good thing to do. They don't like the word war because you're supposed to get approval So I'll use the word military operation, which is really what it is. It's called a military decimation. But they don't like the good publicity. They don't like to see us succeed. They want to see our country fail. And also, what they really want is they want illegal immigrants to come in. Criminals, doesn't matter, because they want to get their votes. They think they're going to get their votes, and we're not going to let this happen. We're not going to let our country be destroyed by these people. So 16 months ago, with the help of many people in this room, we saved our country in the most important electoral victory in American history. Could be. Let me ask you, let's do a poll, fake poll. We'll do a real poll. We're tired of those fake polls. I get so many. Although I got one yesterday from CNN. What is the percentage of people in MAGA, which is most of the Republican Party, by the way, that support the president? The number was 100%. Do you believe it? In fact, he went wild. Harry, he went wild. It may be the last time he ever does the show, but these are okay. It was 100%. Even I was surprised at that. That was pretty good. But we won all 7 swing states by millions and millions of votes. We won the Electoral College by 312 to 226. We won the popular vote for the first time of any Republican in many decades. And biggest of all is we won, that's where you see all red, except for the 2 little blue lines on the edge on the map. We won 86% of all counties in America, 2,700 to 525. That's pretty good. That's what they call a slaughter. And together, the Trump administration and our Republican majorities in Congress won a mandate from the American people. And every day since, we've been fighting to keep our promises and to, in the true sense, the greatest expression, the greatest motto, call it a logo, call it whatever you want, the greatest phrase in the history of politics, make America great again. It really is the greatest. It's the greatest. And we probably have to start, we'll never abandon that phrase, but we'll probably have to start changing, because when you say make America great again, that means it's not great now. We've made America great. We've rebuilt our military. You know, I rebuilt our military in the first term. I didn't think I'd use it this much, but we've used it, and there's no military like it anywhere in the world. We have the greatest military anywhere in the world, and it's not even close. And with the help of our Republican warriors that are right before me in the House, we ended the illegal alien invasion of our country, passed the largest border security investment in history, and achieved the strongest and most secure border on record. I built 1,000 miles of wall, and without that wall, we could have never done what we did. And for 10 months in a row, this is outside, I mean, this is the facts. In fact, these numbers are given by people that they say are predominantly Democrat. They're the ones that make it up. For 10 months in a row, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted to the United States of America. Think of that. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. We've also accomplished the largest reduction in illegal drugs in history, in the history of our country. Think of that. With the flow, deadly fentanyl across our border is down by 61%. Think of that, 61, not good enough, but I'll tell you what, it's down 98% coming in by water. Do you notice that? And we're trying to find out who the 2% are, because we think they may be the bravest people on earth. They are brave people. Either that or they don't watch television, one or the other. I think it's that they don't watch television. Down 98% by water. We had a lot of it coming in by water. And now, if you watch closely, you'll watch that same treatment being given to land. Land being much easier than water. We did the water first. That forces them onto the land, and then we're going to do the land, and you'll be very happy about it. We've reduced drugs coming into this country by an astounding amount. Now the Democrats have shut down the Department of Homeland Security in an attempt to return to open borders where criminals come in from all over the world. From the Congo, they come. You know, the Congo opened its jails, released all of its prisoners into the United States of America through the totally open southern border, Sleepy Joe Biden border. The TSA agents have been hurt badly by the Democrats, who made 3 different deals with us over the last short period of time, breaking the original one and then breaking the current ones because they don't want to settle. They want chaos. As I said, so there are great military triumphs against Iran can't be displayed on television because they're displaying airports. But I have to tell you, they did one thing that's been helpful. We decided to use our great patriots of ICE. These people are great. They have endured so much punishment, all because they want to get murderers, drug dealers, people who are totally mentally insane, many of the worst criminals in the world, get them out of our country. And in so doing, I sent ICE to the airports yesterday, and they have been so great. They have been so great. And you know what's happened? And they didn't need any rehabilitation, but they did in terms of the fake news. And they're doing such an unbelievable job at the airports that they had one line. It was 4 hours yesterday, and today was a half an hour. Big difference. And if we have to, we're going to send in the National Guard if we need to, because we only, we have 6,000 ICE agents and we have 40,000 of the other people that they're helping out, some of who really were forced because the Democrats don't want to pay them. The Democrats don't want to pay them. You have to remember that. The radical left Democrats need to get DHS back and open immediately together. We're going to make with them, not the Democrats, because they've gone out of their way to make our country unsafe. And remember that, according to them, it's a war. They're doing this during a war. They're doing this during a war. We're not supposed to be doing it. But we're going to make America totally safe again very quickly. The largest drop. We had the largest drop in violent crime in our country, despite all of these criminals that have been allowed in, murderers. Despite all, think of it, 11,888 murderers allowed into our country, many of which, more than 50%, killed more than one person. Thank you very much, Joe Biden. Thank you to Kamala, who is the border czar, who never went to the border and never made one phone call to Border Patrol. The Border Patrol is incredible. They've never had a phone call from her. 4 years. But they get phone calls from me every single day. How are we doing on the border? How are we doing on the border, Paul? How are we doing? How are we doing, Brandon, on the border? And we got it down to where people don't come anymore. It's obvious now. It's easy. They used to storm the fences. Now they don't come anymore because they know they're not getting in. But think of it, the murder rate, despite the fact that they allowed massive numbers of criminals into our country, is the lowest it's been in 125 years, 1900, before my father was born. Before my father, Fred, who was the greatest, my father was born. After that, think of that, though, 125 years, and we've achieved a miracle right here in our nation's capital where we have a safe city. You can walk to work. You can walk to Congress. You can walk to the Capitol. You can walk to the White House. When I came, this place was so dangerous. We were having 2 and 3 people killed every single week. Now you don't see it at all. We have actually, in a very short period of time, we've already done it, but in a very short period of time, we have one of the safe. Washington, D.C. is right now, from one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in this country, is now one of the most safe cities anywhere in the country. We have done a great job. And that's not just by having great people from our military there, National Guard. It's because we removed 4,000 hardened criminals out of our city and out of our country. In some cases, they were so dangerous and so bad. They came from Biden, this guy that couldn't walk off a stage. See the stage? See how many stairs are here? All of it. He could never find the stairs. And people don't want that. People want a president that's able to walk off and find the stairs. Could never. Do you ever see that? Where he looks out, oh, I'm finished. First of all, his speeches were extremely short. They lasted a matter of seconds. And then he'd walk out. Look, I couldn't stand. He was probably a nice guy. I couldn't stand this guy. You ever see the weaponization? If we look at somebody, Donald Trump is weaponizing government. We've done just the opposite, unfortunately. Unfortunately. I hope they're looking at some of these criminals that cheated on the election. I hope they're looking at them, because what they did to us and what they did is incredible. But I looked at Biden, and he weaponized like nobody's ever been weaponized before. Me, forget about me, so many people, Republicans, many of you in the audience, Congress people, many of my friends, you were taped and your phone was taken away, right, Scott? A lot of things happened that were very bad. They weaponized. But the fake news will say, oh, Donald Trump mentioned a dirty cop named Comey, and therefore he's weaponizing government. No, they weaponized, and we're not going to let them happen. And I think Comer and all these guys, you're out there someplace, I think, because I can't see a damn thing with these stupid lights they have up. But I want to thank you, Jim Jordan, Comer. Where are those guys? Where I stand up, you deserve it. Now they have to take your recommendations. They have to take your recommendations and they have to act. They have to act. We can't just be sending out all these 100% recommendations and nothing happens. But I want to thank Speaker Johnson, the Republican Congress. We also passed the largest tax cuts in American history. Think of it. With a great, big, beautiful bill, we delivered no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Think of this. I mean, think of the no tax on tips. You know how I got that one? A lot of people hire consultants. You all pay them millions and millions of dollars. I was having dinner with a group of Republicans in Nevada, a state that we never win, right? And this waitress comes over. And I won't say she was beautiful, because if you call her beautiful, that's the end of your political career. So I refuse to say. I refuse to say that she was so beautiful. At the end of your career, it's true. If you call somebody beautiful nowadays, it's over. You resign in disgrace. So I will not say it. I said, how are you doing, Gina? Sir, it's terrible. The government's after me for tips. I said, really? Do you have do you report your tips? It turns out the hotels pretty much report their tips. It's actually not quite as good as you would think. She said, no, sir. Sir, may I make a suggestion? What? What do you want? What do you know about politics? No, I'd like to make a suggestion. I'm voting for you, sir. You should have no tax on tips. She said, what? No tax on tips, sir. I said, say it one more time. No tax on tips, sir. I was with a group of 12 people. I got up, immediately walked outside of the restaurant where there were about 250 lunatic media. I said, ladies and gentlemen, after an exhaustive study, I have decided to have, as a very big part of my agenda, no tax on tips. This has been years in the making. And I won Nevada in a landslide. You know, I kept saying, well, the problem is she's just going to follow me up, you know. Kamala, real genius, she's going to follow me up. She waited months. And then just before the election, she said no tax on tips, and they left at her. It was over. We had the issue. We killed them on that issue. We won Nevada, which you never win. You know, Republicans don't win it very much. It was many, many years. But we had a great election. That was a great election. But I ask you this, I want to do this. Which was the bigger and more important election? Okay, I'm going to ask you, then I'm going to ask you just to cheer one way or the other. Because we had two great elections. We had three. Because 2020 was equally good, but they cheated. Millions of votes. Dirty cheats, dirty, rotten cheaters. Which was the most important election? Which was the more glamorous? The whole thing, right? Which was the better election? I'm going to go 2016 or 2024. Ready? 2016. Whoa. 2024. Wow. Could be right. A lot of people feel that way. I mean, 2016 was unique because somebody that had never done this before won. I never did it before. I went to Washington. I didn't know anybody. I was lonely. I said, do you have any people that are any good? And some rhinos gave me some names that I didn't like too much. But we had great people. You know, we rebuilt our military. 2016, that 4-year period, we rebuilt our military. We got the largest tax cut in history, superseded now by what we did in 2024 with a great, big, beautiful bill. I love the great, big, beautiful bill. But we did a lot. We did a lot. We had a great first term, but our second term is blowing it away. It's blowing every term. So far, it's blowing every term of every president away. And soon, you know, I have to say, we're going so smooth. And I say, I hate to do it, but somebody has to. For 47 years, no president had the guts to do what you had to do. And we hit 50,000 on the Dow. Everyone said, well, 50,000 will take place in 5 or 6 years. There's no way you can do it during his term. And I did it in the first year. Then they said, you'll never reach 7,000 on the S&P. Standard & Poor's, you'll never reach 7. We did it in the first year. We would go in like a rocket ship. The market was good. Everything was good. And then I said, we're going to have to do something about Iran because they're going to have a nuclear weapon very soon, and they're crazy. They're crazy. They're out of their minds. And we have to stop them. And I say, well, we're going to take a big hit. We're going to go through this certain route, and we'll get right back here, but we have to go and stop him. Every president should have done it. I heard that today Blinken made a statement that he should have done it. Thanks a lot, Blinken. I appreciate it. Blinken is Biden's guy, I guess. Who the hell knows who he is? He's his guy. But he came out with a statement that they should have done it. They made a mistake. They should have done it, and other presidents should have done it. Obama should have done it. Obama was worse. Obama gave them the absolute right, title, and interest, gave everything to Iran. You remember that? When Bibi Netanyahu came over and begged him not to do it, he gave Iran the right to have a nuclear weapon at the highest level within a very short period of time. And I terminated that agreement as soon as I came to office. And if I didn't terminate it, that weapon would have been used 3 years ago, would have been used a long time ago. And then we stopped it a second time with those beautiful B-2 bombers. They went in and they knocked the hell out of the nuclear potential. And if they didn't do that attack, Iran would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks to 4 weeks after the attack. But we did attack, and we obliterated the site. And we saved it there, too. We did many things. Taking out Soleimani was very important. He was an evil man, but that was a big event. We took out, in my first term, we took out Soleimani, and they never had leadership that could compete with that. He was an evil guy, but he was a real leader, and he was a very tough general. probably wouldn't have been quite as easy, I will tell you. I don't think we would have taken us an extra day. But under our leadership, America is also highly respected again. Perhaps we are now respected like never, ever before. I don't think we have ever been as respected now. You know, if you think about it, a year and a half ago, our country was viewed as a joke. We were a joke. All over the world, they were laughing at us, how stupid we were, how weak, how pathetic. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're the hottest country in the world. King of Saudi Arabia said it. He said, sir, I was in Saudi Arabia, came back with $2 trillion for our country. I came back with $2 trillion from Saudi, $2 trillion from Qatar, $2 trillion from UAE. All they're great. They're all fighting. They got hit. Nobody expected they were going to get hit. It made them angry, and they came to our side immediately, all of them, and others. But I came back, and I remember the statement like yesterday. He said, sir, King of Saudi Arabia, he said, 2 years ago, you were a dead country, and now you're the hottest country in the world. Congratulations. It's true. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world. There's nobody close. We're the most powerful military. We have the most powerful military. You saw that in Venezuela. 1 hour, the war was over. And, you know, this is a larger country now that we're fighting. But the war essentially ended a few days after we went in. We knocked out their Navy. We knocked out everything. It's amazing. We have the greatest military. We make the greatest military equipment. And now, if you notice, I said, you got to make it faster. Got to make more of it because we need it. All made in America, but we make the greatest. You know, we had an attack. 100 missiles were shot by Iran at a very important thing that we had. I won't tell you what it was for certain reasons. 100 missiles going 2,000 miles an hour were coming at this element of importance, tremendous power and importance. And of the 100 missiles coming at us, 100 missiles were immediately shot down, shot out of the air, fall into the sea. Think of it. Not one missile got through. That was the Patriot system. It's great. We have the best equipment in the world. We have the best military, the most powerful, most lethal military in the world by far. Earlier this year, in a stunning display of American military strength and skill, we apprehended the outlaw Victor, you know this, from Venezuela, named Nicolas Maduro, and brought him to face American justice. He's been killing people for a long period of time with drugs and everything else, but killing people, a violent man. We went in and we got him out of his house, and his house was located in a military base with thousands of soldiers, and we went in so violently that everybody said, we'll pass. Then they came back and waved goodbye as he flew out in a helicopter. The soldiers would say, bye, leave us alone. Thanks to the men and women in the room, we made a $1 trillion investment in the United States Armed Forces, and we now have the strongest and most powerful military that the world has ever seen. Nobody close, nobody close. And the situation in Iran is also a stark reminder of just how high the stakes are for the midterm elections. If Democrats had won in 2024, our country would right now be a nation in terminal decline. I don't even know if we'd have a nation right now. The spirit was so bad. You know, something I'm very proud of, if you go back a year and a half, you know, we couldn't get people to join the military, the police forces, nothing. The Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard, Space Force, they wouldn't join. They didn't want to join during Biden. His last year, they had the worst recruitment in the history of our country. 1 year later, we set records on recruitment. We had the greatest recruitment in the history of our country. The spirit was back. But Iran would long ago have had a nuclear weapon if it weren't for us. The entire world would be under mortal threat, and the prospects for peace in the Middle East would be absolutely shattered forever. And forget the Middle East, we would have a cloud over us too, because he would have used it and they would have used it on us without hesitation. Our military would be woke, politicized, starved for resources. ICE would be effectively abolished. They would have terminated ICE so that all these murderers and drug dealers and killers and the mentally insane would be in our country instead of being shipped back to their country like only ICE could do. These are great patriots that have been abused. And I said before, and I mean it, the people are saying, what nice people. Now, I must tell you, when I first sent them in 2 days ago, I looked and they were wearing masks. And I think they have to because a lot of people are up. But in an airport, no. I said, fellas, do you mind taking off your masks in the airport? And they took them off. And people said, wow, these are nice guys. And they're helping the people with their bags. They're moving things along. It's a beautiful thing to see. People are starting to say, ICE, you're nice guys. We really appreciate it. So the Democrats, in their violence and viciousness, have done us a favor. But the cost of energy and electricity would be the highest ever, which it was prior to this administration. Inflation would be soaring to country record levels. You know, we had the highest, I inherited the highest inflation in the history of our country. They say 48 years. What difference does it make? It's the highest in the history of our country. And our nation would be ravaged by rampant crime, woke lunacy, and transgender for everybody. That's where we would have been. People would have been flowing into our countries at the same levels they were destroying. They were destroying our country. And, you know, we are a party. Remember this. It's okay. It's a pretty obvious statement, I think, but we're a party of common sense. We are the party of common sense because whether you're conservative or liberal, it's really not about, it's really common sense. You need borders. You need education. You want to buy a house. We're the party of common sense. We don't want to have men playing in women's sports. You got to look at some of the records. Weightlifting, a record that stood for 18 years in the women's category, was shattered by a male who came in and broke the record by 128 pounds. You think that's good? That's not good. And he was a lousy weightlifter. As a man, he was a loser. Can you believe it? He felt awfully good. She felt awfully good about herself. But from now until November, we're going to fight, and I'm going to personally campaign for every one of you. We're going to go to win in midterms. We're going to have even bigger majorities in the House and the Senate than we have today. Going to help all of you. Americans saw the true and craven nature of congressional Democrats during my State of the Union, and we're not going to let that happen again. They really are. They're a party, and it's terrible to talk. I want it to be the old way where they got, you know, Democrats, Republicans used to get together, have lunch, and then they'd fight a little bit, and, you know, but it doesn't seem to be happening that way. And this is before me. Because if you go back to Obama, he was a great divider. He divided this nation. He was a lousy president. The worst president in history was Biden. But Obama was a terrible president. He was a divider. He did so many bad things. They're the party of fraudsters, criminals, radicals, illegal aliens, high taxes, and putting America last. That's what they are. They put America last. Republicans are the party for every hardworking patriot. And we do something very much different than them. We put America first. Put America first. So as we rebuild, and it's going to come back very quickly. It's already back. I mean, it's back. It went down a little bit. I actually thought when I went on this excursion, as I call it, excursion into hell, excursion into a terrible place, when I went on to do something that for 47 years should have been done by any of the other presidents, and you heard numerous of them said they wished they did it, but they didn't have the guts to do it. We had no choice, but I thought it would be much worse. I thought that the energy prices, oil price would go up higher. I thought the stock market would go somewhat lower. but it didn't matter to me. It's short term. What we had to do is get rid of the cancer. We had to cut out the cancer. The cancer was Iran with a nuclear weapon, and we've cut it out. Now we're going to finish it off. As we rebuild the greatest economy in history, a top priority must be to bring down the cost of living. And we were doing that, and we are doing that at a record clip. You know, they had a phrase, all these phrases that they came up with, like, they're the ones that caused prices to go up. They had the highest prices, and we're bringing down the prices with the worst inflation, which has come way down. You know, the last 2 months, or last 3 months, actually, inflation was 1.4%. But we're ending high prices with tax cuts, deregulation, and frankly, again, the words common sense. For years, big insurance companies have gotten rich with our government, giving them hundreds of billions of dollars. And under the Great Healthcare Plan, that's what we call it, capital G, capital H, capital P, the Great Healthcare Plan, I'm urging Congress to halt all payments to big insurance companies, which are literally controlling the Democrat Party. They have total control over the Democrats. That's why you can't make a deal with them. The insurance companies have taken in trillions of dollars. I want this money to go directly to the American people so they can buy their own health care. And it's going to be better care at a lower cost. And you guys can do it. You can do it. Every time I mention that, it's like it goes viral. Give the money directly to the people so they can buy their own. You'll pay much less. They'll pay much less. But the Democrats won't do it because they're totally in the pocket of the insurance companies. How about stocks that have gone up 1,400, 1,500, 1,700%? As part of this plan, we also need to maximize price transparency. It's a big deal. Doesn't sound very glamorous, but it is. In addition, it's time to codify my most favored nation's policy on drug prices into law. We have lowered the price of drugs by 50, 60, 70, and 80, and 90%. And there's another way of figuring. You could also say, depending on the way you phrase the statement, 400, 500, 600, 700%. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. I got other countries to do it with the threat of tariffs. I said, if you don't approve it, because I got the insurance companies to do it, the health, we needed insurance, we needed everything. No other president tried to get this done. But basically, very simply, our drug costs, prescription drugs, were far more expensive than any other country anywhere in the world, the highest prices of any nation anywhere in the world. But under the deals I negotiated, we go from the highest price ever paid to the lowest price in the world. It's numbers that nobody's ever seen. It doesn't even get covered in the newspapers. We got to talk about it. That alone should win the midterms. But nobody talks about it. That's why I talk about it. Think of it. I lowered prices by 50, 60, 70, 80%. Nobody even wants to write about it. That's because the fake news is fixed. It's rigged. It's dirty. It's dirty press. For years, Democrats promised to reduce drug costs, but we got it done. All they did was talk. We got it done. I tell the story of my first term, my third year. I was the first one in 28 years to lower drug prices, 0.25%. I was so proud of that. I had a news conference. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to announce that I lowered drug prices by 0.25%. First time in 28 years. The prices went down from January to December, right? Now I'm lowering prices by 70 and 80%. Now we can have it, but nobody wants to pick it up. Nobody wants to pick it up. It's pretty incredible. But the people understand. The people get it. That's why I got 100% in the CNN poll. Can you believe it? 100%. They must have made a mistake. Boy, those people that put that poll out got fired by CNN very quick. They're no longer working for that wonderful crooked network. How crooked is CNN? But you know what's worse? I think ABC fake news is worse, actually. But George Stephanopoulos, they had to pay me $16 million for what they said. CBS had to pay me $38 million for what they said. It's actually pretty good. You know, if you bring lawsuits against these guys, they're so corrupt that they pay it. How about, this one hasn't been determined yet, how about BBC, where they put me out and they have me saying, and you can't tell the difference, things that I never said that were terrible. It turned out they put out news and they changed my words, having me say horrible things. I said to my wife, I never said that. Well, darling, you said it. Look, your lips. Let's watch TiVo, one of the great things in history. Remember, television would be no good without TiVo or its equivalent. How about, wouldn't television be terrible if you couldn't play it back? You'd go absolutely crazy, right? So I play it back, and you're right. I said, you're right. Could I have said that? It's so horrible. And we checked it out. It turned out it was done by fake news. It was fake news. They put words in my mouth, sentences and paragraphs in my mouth that was so horrible. So we brought a suit against them, and they admitted they were guilty. They admitted. Can you believe that's how crooked they are? Now it's only a question of how much do I get. No, they have to be taught a lesson because they're crooked. They're crooked people. You know, I always say you need great borders. You need great borders, and you really need fair press. And we don't have fair. We have good borders now. We're good. We're the best we've ever been. I think we're probably the best. We are considered the best. We are the best at the border that we've ever been, but we have news that's really terrible. And the other thing you need is you need fair, free, safe, honest elections. You need that. And the only way you're going to get that is the Save America Act. You got to add the word America. Oh, when I watch these people, they hate saying Save America Act. They always say the Save Act. Nobody knows what the hell the Save Act means. Save America is good. The Save Act, are you trying to save terrorism? What are you trying to? It could be you're saving anything. It's called Save America Act. Please don't let them. You know, I saw last night on another fake network, the Save Act. It's not. It's called the Save America Act. I saw Schumer the other night. We will stop Save America. And our great First Lady, who now turns out to be a fantastic movie star. Do you believe this? She had the #1 movie. Now she's #1 on streaming. And you can't have 2 stars in one family, so this is not good. I've always said you can't have stars. There's only room for 1 star in a family. This is not a good sign. Now she has the #1 movie, and now she's got #1 on streaming. There's no talking to her. Darling, congratulations on being #1. Oh, thank you, darling. There's no talking to her. But she's doing a good job as First Lady, I'll tell you. She really is. People love her. People love her. But in our quest to restore public safety, we also need accountability for corrupt Democrat officials who conspire to obstruct federal law. Less than 1 week ago, a precious 18-year-old college student named Sheridan Gorman was shot and killed while walking in a park innocently. The illegal alien monster charge was, is total animal. Remember when Nancy Pelosi got angry because I used the word animal in describing a savage killer? We were okay with it. Didn't bother me at all.
Yes,
the illegal alien monster charged with Sheridan's brutal murder had come illegally from Venezuela, had been released into our country by Sleepy Joe Biden. He had no idea what the hell he was doing. That's why he was, okay. Which is a better term? Sleepy Joe or Crooked Joe? Crooked Joe Biden, please. Sleepy Joe Biden, please. A lot of people like Sleepy Joe. Oh, he's pathetic. Worst president. But he was then arrested again and released again by the Democrat governor, J.B. Pritzker, one of the worst governors in the history of our country, in the sanctuary city of Chicago. You know, we would stop crime in Chicago just like we did in Louisiana. We had great success. Memphis, Tennessee, a crime capital. We got it down 71% in a matter of a few months. Washington is the one that we talked about already. So amazing how great we've done. But we could go to Chicago if that slob would allow, if he just say, please come, Mr. President. People are being killed here all the time. Please come. I would come and you would have no crime practically. Chicago would be easy for us. But they don't want to say that because they actually, I think, like it. I don't know. They're sick people. But as you saw at my State of the Union, Democrat politicians, they don't care about American blood. They spill in their very demented pursuit of these open borders. Every American needs to know that the larger majorities in the House and Senate, Republicans will, remember this, will end sanctuary jurisdictions once and for all. We need a few more votes. If we get a few more votes, if we could get a few more in the Senate, and if we could get a few more in the House, we could do things that would be a miracle. We got to get out and win. The time has also come for Republicans to pass a tough new crime bill that imposes harsh penalties for dangerous repeat offenders, cracks down on rogue judges. We got rogue judges that are criminals. They're criminals. What they do to our country, the decisions that they hand down and hurt our country. And I could tell you something, I've gone through it. And the decisions that these people make, I got a decision on tariffs that's going to cost our country, not me, I do it a different way. Going to cost our country hundreds of billions potentially of refunds, giving them back to people that have been ripping off our country because the Supreme Court didn't want to put one little sentence that all money taken in up till this date doesn't have to be paid back. Going to cost us hundreds of billions of dollars. So sad to see. And I could give you plenty of others too. Look at what they did to college sports. Look what they did. You do know, I mean, this is maybe not a sporting environment, but NIL, it's a disaster. College sports are a disaster. A judge made a horrible decision, and the decision got carried up. The appeal was terrible. And what they've done is destroyed college sports and destroying colleges because colleges can't afford to pay quarterbacks that never threw a ball before, that are 17 years old, $12 million to play college because every college is going to go bankrupt. Other sports aren't going to be relevant. Football is going to cause it all. Basketball to a much lesser extent. But your colleges are going to go bankrupt. Did you see where Penn State lost $525 million? Can you believe it? One of the great schools of Florida lost $450 million. Think of that, 400, because it's basically professional sports without a cap. And you can't have without a cap. And we had a good system. We had a scholarship system. It took 100 years to hone and perfect. And a judge who knew nothing about sports, a female, I believe, not that that matters. I have to put that preface in there. A female, I believe, who knew nothing about sports, totally upended all of sports, hundreds of years of sports in our colleges, and now we have a mess like you've never seen before. And you know who gets hit the hardest? Women, because women's sports are being canceled all over college. And other sports that are more minor sports are being dropped. That means the Olympics are going to be a disaster because this was training grounds for the Olympics. We had unbelievable training grounds, and they had scholarships and everything. But they're being terminated because they want to be able to sign football players for $4 million, $5 million, $10 million. All because the courts decided to terminate sports in colleges. And it's a very tough thing to get it back because you have all different sports, all different levels of competition. Nobody knows what to do. A woman, a judge, made a decision knowing nothing about what the hell she was doing. Courts, bad courts in this country are costing us a tremendous amount of money. And the Supreme Court, that's right, of the United States, cost our country, all they needed was a sentence, our country, hundreds of billions of dollars, and they couldn't care less. They couldn't care less. And not that it matters, doesn't matter at all. But two of the people that voted for that, I appointed, and they sicken me. They sicken me because they're bad for our country. We need a tough new crime bill that imposes harsh penalties for dangerous repeat offenders, cracks down on rogue judges and prosecutors, and ends no cash bail. No cash bail has caused a problem for our country like you wouldn't believe. Killers, they go in, they get out. They go in, they kill 2 times in one day sometimes. If our Republican majority stand up for these priorities, the American people will stand with us in record numbers. We have to be strong. We have to be tough. And we can't let these thugs on the other side of the aisle push us around, because what they're doing right now is wrong. And the public knows it. Now the public knows it. And they're on our side. But you have to fight, and you have to be tough. You have to be much tougher. And you have to stick together. Republicans have to stick together. So we won't just reelect our majorities this November. We'll expose the corruption and radicalism of the Democrat Party. It's a lunatic. It's a party of lunatics. We'll defeat the forces of national destruction. We'll complete our mission of national renewal. And the Republican Party will grow larger, stronger, and more dominant than ever before. We have a chance to do that because we're competing against lunatics, and the public knows it, and they're seeing it every single day. And together with all of you, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And most importantly, we will make America great again. Thank you very much, Republicans. Go out and win the midterm.
So awesome. How did you? Oh my goodness, you guys, that was so freaking. Woo, as much as I want to hear that, as much as I want to hear this next speech. Wait a second. Oh, y'all can hear me. That felt good. Did you guys like that? I don't know about you guys, but I got like super excited. Now, as excited as I got about that speech. Oh, we're going to hear from another one of my favorites. She's doing an amazing job in office. Did you guys like that speech? Make America strong again, right, Jerome? Right? What part did you like? All right? Are we still friends? Okay, you guys. I have something for you. This will put you in a good mood too. It will. She's like a breath of fresh air. Okay, let me bring her in. There you go.
First Lady Melania and President Trump will also host President Xi and Madam Peng for a reciprocal visit in Washington, D.C. at a later date to be announced this year. Turning to the ongoing military operations in Iran, the United States military continues to decimate the terrorist Iranian regime's offensive and defensive capabilities.
I got excited.
Just over 3 weeks in, it's abundantly clear that Operation Epic Fury has been a resounding military triumph. More than 9,000 enemy targets have been struck to date. Compared to the start of the operation, Iran's ballistic missile attacks and drone attacks are down by roughly 90%. The United States is also annihilating the Iranian regime's navy. We have destroyed more than 140 of their naval vessels, including almost 50 mine layers. This is the largest elimination of a navy over a 3-week period since World War II. Again, let me reiterate, this is the largest elimination of a navy on the face of the planet in a 3-week period since World War II. We are systematically dismantling Iran's defense industrial base, which will prevent future threats to the region. Our military also remains laser focused on eliminating the regime's threat to the free flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz. Over the weekend, we dropped several 5,000-pound bombs on an underground facility used to store equipment, including anti-ship cruise missiles and mobile missile launchers positioned along the coastline of the strait. Our military efforts grow more successful with each passing day, steadily degrading Iran's ability to terrorize merchant ships. For all of these reasons, we are very close to meeting the core objectives of Operation Epic Fury, and this military mission continues unabated. From the outset, President Trump and the Department of War estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve this critical mission. 25 days in, the greatest military the world has ever known is ahead of schedule and performing exceptionally. Day by day, the Iranian regime is being crippled, and their ability to threaten the United States and our allies is being significantly weakened. Their ambitions of building a nuclear weapon have also been crushed to an even greater degree than they were in Operation Midnight Hammer in June 2025. That's why you're beginning to see the regime look for an exit ramp. They recognize they are being crushed, their ability to attack American and ally forces, as well as their ability to defend their own territory is dwindling literally hour by hour. Following President Trump's powerful threat on Saturday evening, it was made clear to the United States that Iran wanted to talk. President Trump is willing to listen. As President Trump announced on Monday, the United States has been engaged over the last 3 days in productive conversations, which led the president to temporarily instruct the Department of War to postpone planned strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure only. The remaining elements of the Iranian regime have another opportunity to cooperate with President Trump, permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions, and cease actively threatening America and our allies. But the president's preference is always peace. There does not need to be any more death and destruction. But if Iran fails to accept the reality of the current moment, if they fail to understand that they have been defeated militarily and will continue to be, President Trump will ensure they are hit harder than they have ever been hit before. President Trump does not bluff, and he is prepared to unleash hell. Iran should not miscalculate again. Their last miscalculation cost them their senior leadership, their Navy, their Air Force, and their air defense system. Any violence beyond this point will be because the Iranian regime refused to understand they have already been defeated and refused to come to a deal. Here at home, we are now on day 40 of the Democrats' shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. Democrats in Congress are forcing American travelers to wait in hours-long lines at airports across the country, robbing TSA officers and other federal workers of their hard-earned paychecks that they use to feed their families, and causing billions of dollars in damage to our economy. A father of 3 recently told CBS News that he felt he had no other choice but to quit his job as a TSA officer and find other work as the Democrats' shutdown of DHS continues. This is the quote from the father, and I encourage everyone to listen. I think the hardest thing is seeing the struggle that my wife was going through and not trying to bring more stress to her, the father of 3 said, but seeing her cry every night. How am I going to feed my family? How am I going to survive? For the Democrats in Congress, the cruelty of this shutdown is the point. Nearly 500 TSA officers have quit since the Democrat shutdown began. President Trump, to alleviate this pressure, made the decision to send some of our amazing ICE agents to help alleviate that stress and address the long wait times. And for all of the critics of this solution a few days ago when it was proposed by the president, it is yielding results. Wait times have improved since ICE arrived, and they are doing everything in their power to help their fellow federal service members. But it's important to take a step back and remember, why is this even happening in the first place? For nearly 6 weeks, Democrats in Congress have kept DHS shut down because they care more about illegal aliens than American citizens. You have Democrat elected representatives in states across the country who are willing to inflict massive pain on their own constituents to fight for illegal aliens who broke our nation's laws to come here. In recent days, we saw the deadly consequence of this deranged policy of Democrat open borders and an illegal alien first agenda. A beautiful 18-year-old girl, Sheridan Gorman, she was shot and killed in Chicago last Thursday morning while walking in a park with friends. The suspect in custody for murdering her is a Venezuelan illegal alien who was caught and released at the border by the Biden administration in May of 2023. Why would the Biden administration catch and release a Venezuelan illegal alien? That is not happening anymore under this president. But there are still tens of thousands, if not millions, of these illegal aliens in our country who seek to do harm to innocent Americans, like this beautiful young woman whose family will now never be the same because of her death. To make matters even worse, this monster was also released from local custody again after a shoplifting arrest, where in the sanctuary city of Chicago in June of 2023. Again, another innocent American citizen had her life stolen from her because Democrats embrace reckless open border policies and reckless sanctuary city policies, which put criminals back into American communities. How many more Americans have to die before the Democrats end this madness? President Trump's position is very clear. He wants the federal government opened. He wants the Department of Homeland Security funded, and he wants the Democrat shutdown to end immediately. The president will also continue to call on Democrat leaders in sanctuary cities and states like J.B. Pritzker, where this young, beautiful girl was murdered, to cooperate with ICE and stop releasing illegal alien criminals into American neighborhoods. It is for the safety of every American citizen, including all of the people in this room. With that, I will take your questions. And here in our new media seat today, we have Gabe Fleischer.
Thanks, Karoline.
Thanks, Gabe, for being here.
Thank you. I have two questions for you. First, if the war in Iran continues past this current round of peace talks and with thousands of troops on their way to the Middle East, is there a point, either a number of ground troops or a number of days, at which the president will consider seeking authorization from Congress?
Well, as you know right now, that formal authorization from Congress is not necessary because we're currently in major combat operations in Iran. The Department of War and the president, as I said, estimated about a 4 to 6 week timeline for the full completion of these military combat operations. We're again on day 25 today. And as a courtesy, nevertheless, the administration did notify Congress, the Gang of Eight, ahead of the launch of the operation 25 days ago. And we've also had our top national security officials go to Capitol Hill to brief lawmakers, again, out of courtesy and out of respect for them. So at this moment, it's unnecessary. But of course, the president in this administration will always abide by the law. Gabe, do you have a follow-up?
Yes.
Sure, go ahead.
Second question. In my reporting, I speak a lot to young voters, many of whom voted for President Trump for the first time in 2024, hoping to have no more wars and to have lower prices. Now, with the war taking place and with gas prices going up, curious what President Trump's message would be to those voters who kind of swung into his coalition in 2024, but maybe don't feel the administration is going as they had expected.
President Trump is doing this for you. He's doing this for young people so that we are no longer threatened by a rogue terrorist that seeks to kill the brave men and women who serve in our country in the Middle East, many of them young people themselves, young men and women who serve this country honorably in uniform and have been threatened, killed, and maimed by the rogue Iranian terrorist regime for 47 years. President Trump finally had the courage to step up and do what's right by our national security, our homeland security. As for the temporary short-term fluctuation in gas prices, the president has said once these combat operations are over, this administration is going to continue to unleash American energy dominance. We're continuing to do that every day, and we're going to see prices at the pump go back down, just as we have over the past year because of this president. And don't think for 1 second if the Democrats had their way, gas prices would be as they were under the previous administration, the Biden administration, record highs. This president is keeping them as low as he can during this short-term combat operation, and they're going to go right back down when this is over.
Thank you, Karoline. Just within the past few hours, Iranian state TV has said that Iran has rejected the U.S.'s 15-point plan to end the war. What's the White House's response to that, and have these talks hit a dead end?
They have not. Talks continue. They are productive, as the president said on Monday, and they continue to be. However, I saw a 15-point plan that was floated in the media. I would caution reporters in this room from reporting about speculative points or speculative plans from anonymous sources. The White House never confirmed that full plan. There are elements of truth to it, but some of the stories I read were not entirely factual. So I am not going to negotiate on behalf of the president here at the podium. What I will tell you is these talks are ongoing. We're not going to get into the nitty-gritty details that have been exchanged between the United States and Iran at this time?
Well, yesterday the president mentioned a very big present that the Iranians had given the U.S. He wouldn't go into detail, but was it that ship that was carrying 2 million barrels of oil that made it through the Strait of Hormuz?
I'll let the president speak on that at the appropriate time.
And then finally, Karoline, today Iraq's government reportedly is planning to lodge a protest with the U.S. According to the Wall Street Journal. There was an attack in Iraq that hit a military clinic, killing 7 soldiers reportedly. What's the U.S.'s response to that? Was the U.S. responsible for that attack?
I'll have to check in with the Pentagon on that, and we'll get you an answer.
Thank you, Karoline. Too, if I may. Speaker Johnson today described the conflict as wrapping up, but the 82nd Airborne Division, they're typically deployed at the beginning of conflicts. So does the White House consider this conflict as wrapping up, or is it changing shape?
As I said at the beginning of my remarks, we are meeting our goals of Operation Epic Fury expeditiously. The president likes to maintain options at his disposal. It's the Pentagon's job to provide those options to the commander-in-chief. For any specifics on troop deployments, though, I would point you to the Pentagon.
And today, Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner reiterated threats to potentially arrest ICE agents that were sent in to assist with these historically long TSA lines. He said, quote, "The president cannot pardon you." Has the president seen Krasner's comments? Does he have any response?
The president cannot pardon you for what? He's talking to the ICE agents who are handing out water bottles and are helping people move through lines at airports. It's a disgraceful comment. The men and women of ICE are great people. I would encourage this lawmaker, whose name I don't know and don't care to know, to actually sit down and speak with the ICE agents who are on the ground doing this important work, not just in our nation's airports, but again, to remove violent, dangerous, illegal alien criminals from our country, to protect this individual and all of us in this room and Americans across the country from murderers, pedophiles, and rapists who have been allowed into our country by Democrat politicians. Mario, good to see you.
Thank you, Caroline. Good to see you as well. Just given that the president postponed his original trip to China because of the war, should we infer that the war will be wound down and concluded by the time of that May 15th, 14th visit?
Again, as I've said, we've always estimated approximately 4 to 6 weeks. So you could do the math on that, Mario. But we do look forward. I know the president looks forward to going to China on May 14th and 15th. And of course, as always, we'll provide additional logistical details to all of you in the media for that trip, who I know look forward to coming with us as well.
One follow-up. Was that a precondition that the two leaders speak about the conclusion of the war? Was that a precondition for them to have this rescheduled meeting?
No, there was a discussion about the rescheduling of the meeting between the president and President Xi. President Xi understood that it's very important for the president to be here throughout these combat operations right now. He understood, obviously, the request to postpone and accepted it, which is why we have new dates on the books, and I'm happy to announce those to you today. Jennifer.
In negotiations with Iran, are there still face-to-face talks planned perhaps in Pakistan? And who do you think would probably be going?
Again, I've seen a lot of speculation and reporting about potential talks that could happen later this week. Nothing should be deemed official until it is announced formally by the White House. I would not get ahead of our skis on reporting about any talks this weekend until you hear directly from us.
Does the president think that all of the allies will go along with whatever the U.S. concludes with these Iranians? Are you expecting that Israel and all the other allies will follow whatever agreement is made?
I think the president has shown that he is absolutely the leader of the free world, the head of the most powerful military in the world, and in various examples, so the 12-day war between Iran and Israel, the ceasefire between Israel and Gaza, the president has shown a very unique skill at getting our allies to get on board with what's in the best interest of the United States, but also the world in cases of foreign policy like this. Ed.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. So, is there a time frame as to when the first oil tanker can go through the Strait of Hormuz freely?
It's a very good question, Ed. I don't have a specific timeline for you today, but it's obviously something the administration is working towards as quickly as we can. And with respect to oil, as you know, the administration has taken a number of actions to stabilize the markets. We directed the U.S. DFC to offer reasonably priced political risk insurance for takers through the strait. We issued that temporary waiver to allow countries to purchase sanctioned Russian oil to alleviate global pressures. We're working with the IEA to coordinate the release of another 400 million barrels barrels. We issued that 60-day Jones Day Act waiver. And then just today, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, if you missed it, in consultation with the Department of Energy, announced a temporary emergency fuel waiver to allow nationwide sales of E15, gasoline blended with 15% ethanol, to remove all federal impediments to selling E10 gasoline across the country. The emergency fuel waiver will temporarily waive the summer low volatility requirements and blending limitations for gasoline to provide additional flexibility to the fuel marketplace. So as far as tankers through the strait, something we're tracking very closely, but obviously the administration is coming up with creative new solutions by the day to keep the price of oil stable, something the president wants to see. And I know Secretary Bessent, Secretary Wright, Secretary Burgum, EPA Administrator Zeldin are all working together closely to find ways to do that.
The president gave that 5-day timeline for pause in operations. Would a tanker going through the Strait of Hormuz be one of the conditions that he would extend that?
That's only something the president of the United States can answer. I won't get ahead of him.
How about on TSA? Can I ask you about the TSA lines?
Sure.
Are the TSA lines, that we've all seen the video of that from various airports, is that going to be what ends the stalemate in Congress to get DHS funded?
Well, look, it's the Democrats who have led to this stalemate over the past 6 weeks. The president and the Republicans' position has been very clear: fund the Department of Homeland Security. And we've attempted in good faith numerous times, both the president himself and lawmakers on the Republican side on Capitol Hill, to go to the Democrats with reasonable offers, with real solutions. They'll ask for something, we'll give them that concession, and then they say, oh, wait, that's not enough, actually. So I think that's why I said earlier, the cruelty is the point. They want this chaos. They want to distract, I think, from the success of our military overseas right now, totally obliterating the Iranian regime. And it's very unfortunate because there's only the only people that are suffering from this are the American people. And I hear that Democrats might be flying out of town tomorrow. How convenient and lovely of them that they get to go to the airport and that they'll get to go home to their families when you have families, TSA workers who are suffering. You have people across the country who are missing flights for funerals and for work commitments because of Democrat politicians on Capitol Hill.
Karoline.
Mary in the back.
Thanks, Caroline.
Glad to see you have a seat now.
I do. Thank you. Is the White House satisfied with Republican leadership's efforts on the Save America Act?
I think the president has made it very clear he wants everyone on Capitol Hill to move as quickly as possible to get the Save America Act passed. And he wants to see that legislation on his desk as soon as Republicans and Democrats can move to pass it.
But are there any lawmakers in Congress that the president is frustrated with on this matter and feels could be doing a better job?
I think the president wants to see everybody on Capitol Hill move faster all the time. That he wants everyone in this town to work at Trump speed like we do here at the White House. Go to Karen.
Two questions on Lebanon, if I can. Is the U.S. providing support at this point for Israel's ongoing offensive in Lebanon? And is the president concerned that right now there are more than 1 million people who've been displaced and potentially could be for a significant amount of time?
That's not something I'm in a position to comment on for the first question. To the second question, of course, that's something that would concern the president. I think that's why he's again quickly moving to eliminate the threat of the Iranian regime in the Middle East, including weakening their proxies like Hezbollah, who have terrorized Lebanon for far too long. And I know that the president wants to see this again move as quickly as possible as we can over the course of the next couple of weeks here.
Kristen.
Caroline, a question about the Strait of Hormuz. If these negotiations are not successful, is the only option to reopen the strait in boots on the ground, given that all of our allies have essentially said that they are unable or unwilling to help?
Look, that's a hypothetical question. It's a hypothetical question. It's also a decision that would have to be made by the commander in chief, and I'm not going to get ahead of him.
And in addition to that, when it comes to the vice president, J.D. Vance, what has changed that has made him more of an active participant in these negotiations with Iran?
I don't think anything has changed. The vice president has always been a key member, the president's right-hand man, and a key member of the president's national security team. He's been part of these discussions throughout this entire course of the administration with respect, again, to the 12-day war that the president and his national security team negotiated a solution to, with respect to the ceasefire between Israel and Gaza and the release of the hostages, which there was a lot of criticism that couldn't get done, and it did. The vice president has been by the president's side every step of the way, and any reporting otherwise is just completely false. I see him in the room. Again, the president seeks his counsel on all matters, both foreign and domestic.
Can you just tell us who exactly exactly the U.S. is negotiating with in Iran, and why the U.S. and this administration trusts that person?
Again, as I said to Gabe's question earlier, we're not going to get into the details of these negotiations and conversations that continue to take place, as of course you can imagine, they are very sensitive diplomatic discussions. And I would reiterate, I do recall giving all of you the same answer when we were negotiating the ceasefire between Israel and Gaza. Gave you the same answer throughout the 12-day war between Iran and Israel. Gave you the same answer with respect to many of the other global conflicts that this administration has negotiated solutions to. President Trump is going to give his diplomats the freedom that they need to have these sensitive diplomatic discussions without negotiating and litigating them through the news media. Fran.
Caroline, just to follow up though, because you said that some of the information that's been out there about the 15-point plan is inaccurate. Can you say what is accurate with respect to ballistic missiles, the nuclear ambitions, and the Strait of Hormuz, which are things that the president has laid out that he wants to see a couple times in the past?
Look, if you've heard it from the president of the United States, obviously it's true, as well as the objectives of Operation Epic Fury. We've said repeatedly, I've said them from this podium, the Pentagon has reiterated them. That's why we've taken military action to achieve them. So of course, those are goals that we want to see, but this full 15-point plan that's been floating around in many of your outlets, there's a lot of misinformation to that as well. And again, I would caution you from taking things from anonymous sources rather than verifying them directly with the White House. Christian.
Thanks, Caroline. Two on Iran. First, would the president consider loosening asylum restrictions for Iranians trying to flee the country right now?
Again, that's a question for the president. I won't get ahead of him on that. I haven't talked to him about that.
Okay. And then secondly, you mentioned at the top that Iran would be hit harder than they have been to this point if they don't recognize the fact that they're losing this war. Could those strikes happen before this 5-day negotiating window closes if the president doesn't think they're negotiating in good faith?
You're asking me to tell you if the commander-in-chief would authorize very strong strikes against the Iranian regime. That's not something I would ever reveal from this podium, true or not. Phil.
Here, in the back. Thank you, Caroline. I was wondering if you would respond to some of this criticism of the administration from past allies like Joe Kent, who have said that the president's red line shifted from Iran cannot obtain a nuclear weapon to Iran cannot pursue nuclear enrichment. What is the administration's response to that criticism?
I think the president and I have both strongly responded to the criticism by Mr. Kent, who unfortunately resigned in disgrace and accused the president of basically being controlled by foreign countries and foreign manipulation, which is a ridiculous and laughable assertion. So his accusations have zero credibility as far as this White House is concerned.
The question of the red line shifting from no nuclear weapon to no nuclear enrichment, is there any substance to that argument?
I think the president has been quite clear in what he wants to see from the Iranian regime, which is why he chose to launch Operation Epic Fury in the first place. Reagan.
Thank you, Caroline. I have a question for you on the SAVE Act, and I'd like to follow up on the DHS shutdown.
Sure.
First, Senator
The
Mike
Save
Lee,
America Act.
Save America Act. The president corrected me yesterday. That was my fault. Senator Mike Lee said it's essentially impossible to pass the Save America Act through reconciliation. What's your reaction to that? Is the president worried that that strategy might fail?
I think he's willing to try all strategies. I spoke with him about this yesterday, and he said if we can make it work through reconciliation, let's absolutely do that. These, again, are common sense policies that are backed by the vast majority of voters across this country. The only people in this country who don't support them are politicians on Capitol Hill. And you all should ask them why they don't want voter ID, why they don't want proof of citizenship to vote in our nation's elections. Again, these are common sense proposals that are wildly popular, and the president is willing to use any means necessary to get this legislation passed and onto his desk.
And then on the DHS shutdown, do you expect deportations to decrease while ICE is in the airports? And what are the trade-offs of having ICE in the airports right now?
Well, to address this obviously short-term problem and the chaos that has been sowed by these Democrats on Capitol Hill, to address the lines and to get Americans traveling and get them to where they need to be. So the president, I think this was a creative solution, again, that was criticized, but we have seen wait times decrease, not as much as we'd like. Hopefully they will continue to, but at major airports over the course of the last few days, as ICE has been facilitating with travelers in these airports.
Caroline.
Sure, Caroline.
Thank you, Caroline. On March 6th, the president said in an interview with Reuters that the U.S. should have a role in choosing Iran's next leadership. Now that we're almost 4 weeks into the operation, is that still the president's assessment of where it should go?
As I've said repeatedly, I think the president obviously believes the United States wants to have someone in leadership position in the Iranian regime that will be much more favorable, that will be willing to work with the United States, that will no longer chant death to America. These would obviously be good common sense things for the United States and for our allies. I think that's what the president meant when he spoke with Reuters that day. Go ahead.
The president yesterday said that he had achieved regime change in Iran because the regime has changed in terms of.
I mean, has it not?
Well, the leadership.
Their entire leadership has been killed, and nobody has really seen or legitimately heard from this alleged new leader. So, wouldn't you say there's been a change in the regime?
There's been a change in leadership. I mean, do
there's
you
been
feel
a change
as though,
in the regime leadership, which is what the president said. So, thank you for confirming he was right.
I mean, do you feel as though you've achieved leadership level or the personnel in place right now in Iran that you're satisfied with? I mean, have you?
I think it's too soon to say.
In terms of highly enriched uranium in Iran right now, is your expectation, I mean, the stated desire of the president has been to prevent nuclear weapons. Is your expectation that the end game here is that eventually Americans will be in possession of that uranium, or you'll somehow have some direct control over the highly enriched uranium that could be used to develop it?
Again, this is a point of conversation that continues. I think you know the means in which the United States would have to take in order to achieve that goal, and that's a decision for the president to make. Brian, good to see you, Brian Glenn.
Good to see you as well. Does the White House have a comment on a letter that was sent from Congressman Raskin to the DOJ alleging that the DOJ recklessly released damning information in regards to President Trump's documents?
Yes, I saw that letter from Congressman Raskin this morning, who I would add has zero credibility, and this letter was clearly a cheap political stunt. What the congressman did here, Brian, and for everyone in the room who's hopefully not reporting on this as fact, is that he took untrue and salacious claims in a memo that was produced by Jack Smith, who has been completely discredited for his lawfare and his witch hunts against this president. And that information was unverified. It never even made it into the indictment because it was so unverified. And what happened to that indictment anyway? It was thrown out. And Jack Smith has been proven, again, to be a prosecutor on a witch hunt against President Trump. He tried to throw him in jail ahead of the 2024 election. The Biden Department of Justice was fully on board with this lawfare campaign. And in fact, this story that was concocted by Congressman Raskin was so ridiculous. I understand his communications team reached out to some outlets in this room who responsibly said, we're not going to write this because this is just too much. However, of course, MS Now did write that story this morning because they continue to be left-wing propaganda for the Democrat Party. But I think Jack Smith has been proven to be a liar and a fraud. And this is, again, a cheap political stunt from a Democrat on Capitol Hill who I think wants to get himself on cable television. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay. What do you guys think of that? Where am I? I think I was going to. I think this is it. Oh no, that's not it. Ugh. Hang on, you guys. Sorry. Oh, here. Let's talk about Iran a little.
In the next few days. Now, here's another question. Why are troops being deployed when President Trump insists talks with Iran are progressing? Now, CNN's chief national security analyst and anchor, Jim Sciutto, is actually on the ground in Tel Aviv. He joins me live. First, can you tell me a little bit about this deployment of troops that we're hearing about?
Yeah. Well, Audie, whatever the president ultimately decides about a ground operation in Iran, all the pieces are now in the region to carry one out. And it's not just the 1,000 paratroopers. You have Marines deployed to the region, and then all the forces, the air transport, et cetera, that one would require to put troops on the ground, whether that be, you've heard the discussion of Karg Island, which is so central to Iran's energy industry, or perhaps along the shores of the Strait of Hormuz to secure the Strait of Hormuz. We don't know, and ultimately it's up to the president, but at least the pieces are in place. So we're left in a situation not unlike where we were 4 weeks ago before the start of the war, where you have two tracks at the same time. You have diplomatic discussions with Iran, or at least now laying the groundwork for those discussions, with an enormous military buildup. We saw what happened 4 weeks ago. The president chose the military option, saying that the talks weren't going anywhere. So we're left in that situation again. Will the president decide that the talks aren't going anywhere in his view and then deploy further military action up to and including ground forces? We don't know. I will tell you from here in Israel, there's a great deal of skepticism as to whether there is actual potential for real peace negotiations right now.
I'm joined now by Malcolm Nunts. He's a retired U.S. Naval Intelligence officer and a national security expert. Good to have you this morning, Malcolm. Thank you. Two sources tell CNN that approximately 1,000 U.S. soldiers now preparing to deploy to be available for Iran operations, as it were. And you've listed some of the units and hardware that make up this force, saying, quote, "This force is not leverage. This is a commitment to take action." What action do you expect at this point?
Well, we're talking about the 82nd Airborne Brigade sending out 1,000 troops out there. They are paratroopers, or they're soldiers who are going to be hella lifted into whatever their objective are. The issue that's not being talked about is the 500 or 100 or more special operations soldiers that are being stationed in Jordan and Israel right now, who are an elite assault force. So whatever the Trump administration has planned, it is offensive. It is not defensive at all. The 82nd Airborne is a backup force for these spear tip units like Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 that, objectives like Karg Island are just too small for that. That's something that one special forces unit can do, but they're bringing in Rangers, they're bringing in others. Even taking the islands in the Strait of Hormuz, Larak, Hormuz, Kishem, Hengam, Lesser Toom, Greater Toom, Abu Musa, Kish, and Siri, that is still a massive force for this. So the question is, do they have multiple intent here? Take the Strait of Hormuz Islands, take Karg Island, and then possibly a land operation somewhere in Iran. That's what this spells out. But it's really up to the White House to make clear why they need this force there if they're in end state negotiations.
Can you just game plan that for me slightly more? Just, I'm really interested to learn from you very specifically what these forces that you describe are equipped to do.
Right. Well, first, let's look at the Marines and the Tripoli Amphibious Readiness Group. That's about 2,500 Marines. Their job is to do a forced landing on hostile shores or islands. A group like that could be used against, Bandar-e Jas, which is a large secondary oil pumping facility for Iran on the Indian Ocean, or to hazard their warships to go through the Strait of Hormuz and launch from ships and do an amphibious landing on like Larak or Kishem Island. That danger. They have helicopters they can do it with. They have landing craft they can do it with. But it's easily mined and it's easy, narrow channel to attack with anti-ship missiles, even if you have heavy air defenses. They could helicopter over the Musandam Peninsula and land on islands like Abu Musa, which belong to the United Arab Emirates, Lesser Toom, Greater Toom. They've been doing an extensive bombing campaign on these islands this week by the U.S. government. But one thing they didn't do was they did not bomb the airstrips, which means that they look at like they're going to use that for future operations. Kishem Island, the one that's shaped like a shark, is much more extensive. It's 53 villages. It requires water from desalinization. That's a massive target. That's something that the Marines themselves may make an initial landing, but you could paradrop the 82nd Airborne troops there. But that's fraught with danger because you have to have absolute aerial control. You have to be sure there's no surface-to-air missiles. And you could lose or injure people just jumping out of the airplanes onto that big island. But Delta Force, the Rangers, they could easily take Karg Island in a matter of an hour. It's a question of keeping it without getting bombarded day and night.
I wonder whether you believe that the deployment of these troops has been part of the long-term planning and strategy, or whether this is a US administration, I don't want to say making things up as they go along, because I have no idea, what the thinking has been behind the scenes. But, I wonder whether this is sort of layering on sort of new opportunities that Pete Hegseth wants to be able to provide for Donald Trump at this point.
I'll speak frankly as a former intelligence professional. They're winging this. Every military activity that we see does not show phased planning that was part of a strategic campaign in the pre-war, where the Pentagon thought about it, prepared it, and had it ready. None of these forces were ready, especially the Marines. I mean, they seem to be an afterthought. I think in response to Donald Trump's rhetoric about let's take the Strait of Hormuz, you are now seeing the system spool up to take the Strait of Hormuz. There's no taking it. So long as Iran can deny the sea, which they could do with an anti-ship missile launched 300 miles away, this is going to be a very hard nut to crack. Worse, Becky, once the fighting starts, no one is moving any ships. There's no chance anyone's going to insure a vessel that's going to go when there is massive fighting in the Strait of Hormuz.
I've got reporting that says that key regional partner Saudi Arabia certainly wants Iran's missile capabilities sort of closed out, degraded before this war ends. So they've said to me very specifically they don't want civilian infrastructure targeted. The Wall Street Journal reports that Gulf allies, including the UAE, where I am, are considering joining this fight because they've been so relentlessly targeted in Iran's retaliation strikes or attacks. I mean, they call them reckless and unprovoked. There is no suggestion as of yet that the UAE or the Saudis are prepared to jump in offensively in this fight and join, the US here. But I wonder what a coalition would look like and achieve, and just how much degradation do you believe of Iran's military capabilities we've seen to date to ensure long-term stability in the region where I am?
Well, a coalition is not hard to put together. I mean, the GCC already has its informal networks for the militaries. The UAE would probably work with the United States in recovering an island that was stolen from them, Abu Musa Island. The Iranians just summarily took that some 20 or some odd years ago. The Saudis, on the other hand, have a big armed force, but the key component of that is using their air power to provide cover and defense for U.S. forces and other forces in the country, that are coming along and seizing these literal islands. As far as degrading Iran's ballistic missile capability, let's all be realistic here, okay? You cannot just say it and it's done. If it's going to be a question of degrading it and before we declare the war over, we're going to be here a year because those missiles can be hidden, they can be moved around. We haven't even gotten into the large number of short-range ballistic missiles that they have, and we could hunt them for some time to come, just as we did in Iraq. But now you're talking an extended period of strife. The Gulf, Strait of Hormuz not opening, and quite possibly even worse, bringing the Houthi rebels into this, and they open this war to, and attack Saudi Arabia from the west and close the Bab el-Mandab waterway. It's a nightmare.
Malcolm, your perspective's really valuable. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Malcolm Nance with us this morning. Thank you.
Iran is now taunting President Trump for asking American allies for help in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's foreign minister said of the U.S., quote, they carried out large-scale attacks and again repeated the demand for unconditional surrender. Today, they are turning to other countries for help. He also argued the Strait of Hormuz is, quote, only closed to our enemies. Joining us now to discuss this and more is former Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. Thanks for coming on, Congresswoman. So we all know you were a longtime loyal supporter of President Trump, but you broke with him in part because you felt he was too focused on foreign affairs rather than the America First promises he made on the campaign trail. As we enter day 17 of the Iran war, do you believe the president's voters can trust him?
Well, just to be clear, the president broke with me over the Epstein files. So that always has to be said. He called me a traitor because I stood with women who were raped when they were 14 and 16. But I do completely disagree where the president has led the country. You know what? It makes absolutely no sense, Pamela, going into midterm elections. Let's remove Donald Trump out of it. Let's just put any president in there. Why would an American president lead his political party into the midterms, waging a full-scale major war, completely unprovoked on Iran, on behalf of Israel? And that's the way most Americans see it. They see this is for Israel, not for America. Why would an American president do that, which is forcing gas prices to hike right here going into spring break, where families are going to be driving out of town, going into summer, declaring and waging a major full-scale war that seems to have no end in sight, that is not de-escalating, it's escalating every single day. And it just doesn't make sense. And the American people did not vote for this. This is not what we campaigned for, Pamela. I went to, I can't even tell you, countless rallies all over the country for President Trump, campaigning for him and Republicans because we wanted to win. And we said on every single rally stage, no more foreign wars, no more regime change. It's time to put America first. And this is a complete betrayal of those campaign promises.
So is that what you're hearing on the ground in Georgia, where obviously there are a lot of Trump supporters where you are? Are you hearing from them that they believe President Trump is doing this on behalf of Israel? Bring us there.
It's actually very split, and it's split along generational lines. Many of the older Americans from the baby boomer generation that watch Fox News all day long very much believe the talking points on Fox News, and they've spent decades of their lives convinced that fighting these wars is the right thing to do. But the younger generations, I'm Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z, are very much against this war. And so when you talk to people on the ground, that's how it comes across. It's very generational, and the younger generations are completely against it. We want world peace. We want good trade. We want a great economy. We want to lower inflation, lower the cost of housing, and younger generations want to be able to afford their American lives, and they don't want their taxpayer dollars shipped off to, and you can fill in any foreign country. We'll take Israel out of it. They don't want their money sent overseas. And you know what? They're right for saying this. This is absolutely absurd, and it's 100% a betrayal to what MAGA was supposed to be when we voted in 2024, and it's turned into some perverted, deranged version of MAGA now that nobody wants. And a lot of people are just like, this doesn't make sense. And I'll go further, Pamela. We love our military, and God bless the men and women serving, and we love their families, and we do not want to see flag draped coffins coming home in a war that does nothing for our own homeland. And then I want to add on something else. How insulting is it to Americans that the GOP can't even fund Homeland Security right now, our own government that protects our own homeland, while they're waging some war like 6,800 miles away in a country that none of us have ever been to, against the foreign people that none of us know, killing many of these people, even to the point of killing their children. It's just absolutely absurd.
I want to follow up with you on what you just said. You said, you have been on stages, you campaigned for President Trump, and part of that was no more foreign wars. Vice President Vance has lambasted past administrations for sending American troops into conflicts without a clear mission. And even President Trump said that Vance himself expressed some reservations about the Iran war at first. Do you think this war hurts Vice President Vance's chances of becoming President Trump's successor in 2028?
The longer it goes on, it definitely does hurt J.D. Vance. And that's someone that I campaigned for aggressively. I was the first member of Congress to endorse him in the Senate. And I was one of the loudest voices in the room asking for him to be vice president, the vice presidential candidate. J.D. Vance and I are very aligned in our policy beliefs in America First, as well as Tulsi Gabbard and others in the administration. Though we all see things very much the same way, but we're also the younger generation. And I can tell you, I won't speak for anyone, but there are people in the administration, high up in the administration, I know that don't support this, but the longer they stay silent, it hurts them. It definitely hurts them in the future.
I know you don't want to name names, but I mean, it raises the question whether you have spoken directly to the Vice President J.D. Vance and what your message is to those Republicans you've been speaking to who are in positions of power, who are not speaking publicly and staying silent in this moment.
Well, I'm not saying that I did speak with the vice president, and I'm not saying who I have spoken to or have not spoken to. I know where they're at on the issue, and I leave it up to them to come public with it. They know that their base, they know that the large majority of Americans, especially younger Americans, that's the future of America, are 1,000% against this. And, my parents are the baby boomer generation. There's so many good, peace-loving baby boomers that are against war, and God bless them for that. But the baby boomers in power, the ones clinging to power right now, it feels like they're literally wrecking the ship, that we're all on board, and that they're destroying our future. Like, when are we going to get Social Security checks? We don't know. Are our children ever going to have any type of future like all of us did? It doesn't seem likely. And this war is going out of control. And it's really insulting to watch America's position in the world, where the president just bullies and name calls and basically harasses foreign leaders all over the world and many of our allies, to the point now where he's calling them in to help open the strait so that these very important oil ships can get through. Many of them are not responding. And here Americans spent, trillions of dollars in our tax dollars defending all of our allies with military bases on these countries' homelands, protecting them, especially Europe and NATO, but yet they are not quick to respond. But I would argue it's because of the way the president has been treating them. And this is pushing America into a very serious situation that we should not be in. We should not be losing our relationships with countries all over the world. We should not be getting further and further ingrained into a very violent and dangerous, serious war with Iran that has very serious future implications. And we should not be seeing our great military men and women coming home in flag-draped coffins. It needs to end.
I'm just wondering, given what you laid out, do you regret your past support for President Trump, campaigning for him and being so vocal about your support, given your concerns now?
Pamela, I meant everything I said on the campaign trail in 2024. The part that is disheartening to me is that it appears to not only myself, but many others, that President Trump did not mean it. And we are basing that on his actions and his decisions and the priorities that he has made important and first to him, which are 100% departure of what we campaigned on in 2024. So to answer that, nothing has changed about me. I'm America First. I'm conservative. I have a voting record to prove it, but I cannot support this president when he completely turns his back on MAGA and what he sold to the American people for so many years in his campaign promises in 2024.
The stunning leak of highly sensitive military plans accidentally.
If she's still conservative, she says she is. I beg to differ. I don't think so. I think that she's one of the biggest disappointments ever. But that's just my opinion. I don't know. I liked Marjorie, Marjorie, whatever the hell her name is. Somebody sent this to me. Oh, here it is. Thanks, Doc. I think this is the video you shared with me. Hang on, you guys. I think I got it.
Diplomatic settlement as early as yesterday. This is the only thing that can effectively contribute to diffusing the catastrophically tense situation that has now developed in the region.
That's a top spokesman for Russia's President Vladimir Putin, urging Iran to end hostilities immediately, move toward a diplomatic resolution. U.S.-Iran direct talks may take place in Islamabad this week. Saudi Arabia and UAE may join the fight against Iran. Joining us now, U.S. Army veteran, retired Lieutenant Colonel James Carafano. Colonel, it's great to see you. What's your reaction to Russia telling Iran to end the hostilities? They don't want their oil supply at risk. Ukraine just bombed one of Russia's biggest Baltic oil export terminals.
Right. So let's look at this because we don't know. But why would the Russians want this? Iran is one of the few staunch allies that the Russians have left. We know that they supply them drones and other things. So just geographically, strategically, they're a key ally. The probable answer here, the logical answer is that the Russians are afraid that the Iranian regime is going to collapse and that they would be sitting way back in the 1950s with an American ally, a massive, huge American ally sitting on their doorstep astride the Caucasus in Central Asia. That's a terrifying thought. Literally, the only outlet in the world left would be Russia. I mean, that's a nightmare. So I think the Russians are afraid if the Iranians don't stop, they're not going to be there for them.
Wild stuff. I mean, that's an interesting take on that, Colonel. Now, the Pentagon is weighing a possible deployment of a combat brigade from the Army's 82nd Airborne Division. This is as Iran is basically still doing strikes on Israel. That's firing up. Let's take a listen to President Trump today saying Iran is giving the U.S. a big gift. This could be linked to the U.S. possibly controlling the flow of oil in the Strait of Hormuz. Watch this.
Why bother talking to them?
Because they're going to make a deal. They're going to make a deal. They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it. So that meant one thing to me: we're dealing with the right people.
Is that nuclear related?
No, it wasn't nuclear related. It was oil and gas related.
Related to the Strait of Hormuz and the flow of.
Yeah, it was related to the flow and to the strait. Yeah, it was.
Are you negotiating on who's going to control the strait from now on?
No, we'll have control of anything we want.
We'll have control of anything we want. That's the president. Do you think the U.S. is going to have control of the Strait of Hormuz and oil shipping?
I felt like I was just watching a game show of 20 questions. I mean, look, it's first of all, we have won. We have eliminated, the president has eliminated the nuclear threat, the missile threat. They've completely dismantled the surrogates. Everything that made Iran a threat to the United States is demolished. So we could stop today and we have won. I don't know what this deal looks like, but let's say he makes a deal with somebody and the deal falls apart. Well, that's just going to put, because the hardliners don't agree, that's just going to put a lot more stress on the regime, and the regime might even collapse. So, and if he does get the deal he says, well, then that's just kind of icing on top of the cake with a cherry and then a present to you and, a gift to your IRA. I mean,
Got it.
Yeah.
Colonel James Carafano, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's great to see you. Thank you for your service.
All right, you guys. Can I can I throw something in there that's off subject? It's off subject, you guys. Okay, I won't hold you much longer. Let me just. Do you guys mind? You know I'm gonna play it. I don't know if you guys kept up with this. I don't know if you guys kept up with this, but I'm gonna share it with you, okay? Before I get out of here. All right, you guys.
Essentially on trial.
Did you guys
CNN's Claire Duffy has the latest and clear. A verdict has been reached in a potentially landmark social media addiction trial. Meta and YouTube essentially on trial. CNN's Claire Duffy has the latest and clear. What is the verdict? I understand you've got the news.
Well, Boris Brandt, Meta and YouTube have both been found liable in this case for negligence and how they've operated their platforms, building these features that have been called addictive of young people, and also, found liable of failing to warn users of the risks of their platforms. So really a significant moment here. The jurors have decided that Meta bears a 70% sort of responsibility for what happened to this 20-year-old plaintiff. YouTube bears 30% responsibility, but they have found that these companies were responsible for addicting her and causing harm to her mental health. And of course, this does set the stage for potentially similar verdicts in hundreds of similar cases. So massive moment here. We are awaiting more information about what exactly the financial damages could look like in this case. But this is, again, a landmark moment where both Meta and YouTube are being found responsible, being found liable for building addictive features that have harmed the mental health of young people.
All right, Claire, huge news. Stay with us. Let's bring in former state attorney Dave Ehrenberg to talk about the legal implications here. Hundreds more cases, Dave. Walk us through this. As you mentioned, this is a bellwether case. So explain to us what that means for these other cases.
Right, Brianna. So there's about 10,000 similar lawsuits. They're bundled into multi-district litigation across the country. So you have all these groups, parents, school districts, attorneys general, they're all over the country. They're putting their cases together to consolidate them so they could follow with this lawsuit. But this is the bellwether. This will serve as a real tough point for Facebook and Google. They're going to have to live with this because the outcome and the damages will serve as the template for how the rest of these thousands of cases are litigated or settled. And I suspect they will settle. This is, remember, it was TikTok and Snapchat that settled with these plaintiffs before trial. And Facebook and Google said, nah, we're going to take our chances, roll the dice. Well, they rolled the dice and it came up snake eyes.
Snake eyes indeed. We just got a statement from Meta saying, quote, we respectfully disagree with the verdict and are evaluating our legal options. To what Dave said just a moment ago, they are likely to appeal this decision. Let's bring in Brian Stelter, who's been tracking the latest on this news. Brian, what's your reaction?
That's right. And that statement from Meta coming moments ago from the company. This is the second verdict in a case against Meta in as many days. There was that New Mexico case yesterday, that jury finding Meta liable as well. That dollar figure, $375 million. Meta said it would appeal. Now you have Meta reacting again today. And the company had been waiting, of course, for more than a week as these jury deliberations were going on in LA. The company reacting to this case saying, yes, it's evaluating its legal options, not immediately saying it will appeal. It is notable, we're going to hear about the compensation, the compensatory damages in this case. It looks like it's probably the $3 million. $3 million for a single plaintiff is significant, but for Meta, that is, of course, a very, very small amount of money. We're talking about some of the biggest companies on the planet here, worth trillions. So Meta has weighed in so far. I suspect we will hear something similar from Google, the owner, the parent company of YouTube as well. A couple of other social media players, they actually settled right on the eve of trial to avoid going through this trial process, to avoid facing a jury, and that spoke volumes in and of itself. So Meta and Google went forward, and now we have this really significant ruling. I feel like in America and around the world, we're at the beginning of a conversation about what smartphones and social media companies have done to our society. Both the positives, yes, but also the negatives. We're only at the beginning of that conversation, even though it's been many years. And even though we're now at the point where trials are taking place over the addictive nature of these technologies. We all feel the addictive pull of these tools. We all feel the consequences in our own lives, but to see it displayed on trial, to see the effects on one person brought up in front of a jury in this way, it is a monumental situation. It's a really important moment to take stock of what these tools that have both in some ways transformed our culture in good ways have also have very harmful effects in other ways.
So true. Brian, thank you so much. Stand by for us. I want to bring in Jacob Ward, technology journalist, who is the host of the Rip Current podcast. Wow, Jacob. And to Brian's point, yeah, this is a small amount of money, but there are a lot more cases. And this also speaks to how these companies do business. There is a conversation going on, right, about how social media companies are operating and the influence they have. But I think at a time where there's a feeling that social media companies maybe...
Wait, did I miss it? Did they announce the money? I didn't think they came up with an amount yet. You guys, did I miss that?
Have been patronizing some of the users of social media and the people who have been complaining about the effects of them. Perhaps they have to listen a little bit more. And this could really affect their bottom line and how they do business.
I mean, yeah, from just a pure dollars and cents perspective, sure, $3 million for an individual plaintiff,
wow,
maybe that's something that a company like this can afford, but there's 350 family cases in the pipeline behind this plaintiff. If you've got 3 million per, that's already over $1 billion. Beyond that, you've got another 250 school districts lining up to sue. That's going to be, thousands more kids conceivably per school district, and then you're getting into some very large numbers very fast. But all of that aside, I mean, what this really says to me, what is such a big deal about this, is that we're really looking at harm in this whole new way, that the architecture of choice, the way in which these companies have built the experience of being.
You guys, do you agree that social media is harming our kids? I think it's harming the adults as well. I think some people are losing their mind.
Together online has, in this case, the jury has found, caused damage to young people. And that idea, which is beyond the sort of the general feeling we all have that something is wrong with childhood, moves us into this legal theory that can be pursued, thinking now in very concrete terms about a behavioral harm at scale by design. And that is an entirely new world. We are literally sitting here, I think, at the moment when we figured out that seatbelts in cars are the difference between, danger and not, right? We're at the moment here, I think we're figuring out that there is a causal connection between, cancer and cigarettes. It's that kind of legal theory that is suddenly in place here. And we're now, I think, Brian's right there, that we're at the beginning of an absolutely new era in thinking about how social media is really working on kids and the liability that companies have when they play around with kids' behavior for profit, which until now has been entirely legally acceptable. And now we're in an entirely new world, you guys.
Yeah, really is. Jacob, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, social media has changed our kids and not for the better, you guys. And I wanted to share that with you. I will keep up with that. So let me know what you guys think. Hang on. Hey guys, are we still friends? That was a lot, you guys. So there's a lot that's going on. Did you know Mark Zuckerberg does not let his kids use social media at all? That says a lot because he knows how damaging it's been. Kids have committed suicide. Kids have they've harmed themselves thinking that they were talking to a real person and they're AI bots. It's been like really, really sad cases. And I'm talking about kids that came from wealthy families, right? And I've been following this, and it's really sad, you guys. So we have a lot that's going on. We have the trial with Maduro, still looking at that. Charlie Kirk trial with Tyler Robinson. We have Luigi Mangione. I have a lot to bring to you. And of course, Iran. I'm going to say this before I go. I'm hoping that the United States, you guys, I would love to see this end. I think that it's going to harm Republicans in midterms because if this war does not end soon, I just don't think it's going to look good. I don't. All right. Who is Charlie Kirk? Jim Bellini, are you trolling me right now? You've been in my chat long enough. Okay, I'm going to be nice to you. The person that lost his life for speaking conservative values. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Toby J. Feeler, the kicker. This one a lot. This is Trump's fault. Let me read some of your comments before I go. He knows the dangers. Exactly. And I'm not shocked by this verdict, because they've been trying to do this for a long time, and I feel that this is going to set precedents. Now that this has happened, you're going to see a lot of other lawsuits come into play, because kids are being damaged, their self-esteem is lower, their eating disorders are higher. And I don't know if you have kids, but I've seen changes with my kids where I've had to limit them, take away their phone. You think that I committed like some terrorist act. I don't know, but it's really bad, and I have young kids. Oh, thank you, Mello. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. So Iraq sent 10,000 groups. Oh, I know I got to go to bed because I can't read, you guys. Iraq sent 100,000 and fought for 8 years before ending it in the stalemate with Iran. I really need to do a stream just on what led us to this war. Maybe I'll do that on an earlier day. I could play like a timeline if you guys are kind of confused of the United States relationship with Iran. Just let me know under any video if you guys want me to do that, and I will. Okay, let me know. Good night, Jerome. Good night, friend. Thank you so much for your donations, your support. Thank you guys that support my stream. I appreciate you. Thank you guys for being members and all that stuff. Listen, I gotta lay it down. No social media. We'll talk more about it. What do you say about boots on the ground? Boots will only be on the ground for stabilizing. I feel that's going to be a bad idea, because the Iranians are raised to fight on the ground. I would hate to see that. I would hate to see that, you guys. I'm always going to be Team USA, America first. But I do not want to see boots on the ground. I'm not going to hold you. I just feel it's going to hurt Republicans in midterms. I do. I want us to win midterm elections. It's going to be really important for Republicans to win midterms. You guys go out there and vote. Go out there and vote. I turned off my TV 12 years ago. Best thing ever did. Mello, I don't have a TV in my room. I watch the news. I watch the news for an insane amount of time. I really should not watch Donald Trump so much. Jamalina, you've been trolling my chat a lot today. What's wrong with you today? No, I mean after Dilla struck, little to no fighting. Oh, right, Doc, right. All right, you guys, I love you guys. Go read a book. Baby. You can call me Nicole. Hi, Akshay Cards. Hi. All right, you guys. Thank y'all. I had a great birthday. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, watching the news with me, and seeing what's going on in the world. I love you guys. I'm going to lay it down. Education is so much better here than where you got yours. I don't know what you're talking about. But I'll be back to talk to you guys later. Doc, thank you for holding me down. Uncle Claude, thank you for holding me down. I love you guys. U.S. education is a joke. Jamalina, we'll have a conversation about that another day. Okay. I'm always going to be Team USA. The good and the bad. I'm praying for you guys, and I'm praying for our country. I'll see you guys later. Thank you, Claude. Thank you. Jamalina, my mods can't block you or time you out. You can rock out in the chat, but you're not from over here. You're not from our country, and you want to put me down. Listen, I still love you. I love you guys. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye. I'm not going to get you together tonight. We'll do it another day. Thank you, DF, JC5150. Bye, you guys.